You're listening to Around the Northwest now. Paul Brady has had a remarkable career to date, a career that has spanned 6 decades and started out at the forefront of the folk scene here in Ireland, from the Johnsons on to Plankstay, and then recording and touring with Andy Irvine, and then a very, very successful solo career where he's collaborated along the way with the likes of Bob Dylan, Eric Clapton, Carole King, and Tina Turner. Born in Belfast, but of course raised up the road in Strabane, and he's got a new book out, and all of that is in there and a lot more besides. The book is called Crazy Dreams, and I'm delighted that Paul joins us now on the show. Good afternoon, sir.
How are you, John?
Yes, good,
I'm
good.
just while I set my Zimmer frame aside, just hold on there.
Zimmer, well, when you're described as one of Ireland's greatest living songwriters, does that give you the heebie-jeebies?
No, no. I mean, I'm pretty fit and healthy. I still lap around. Anybody who saw me in Dunleary recently would see that.
Swimming.
So
You do a
I'm
lot
not
of
planning
swimming, do
to
you?
exit the planet just yet. Huh?
You do a lot of swimming, do
Sorry.
you?
I do. I do. Try and swim 2 or 3 times a week in a 25-meter pool, 30 lengths, and on a weekend I'll go snorkeling in the sea in a wetsuit. And on the next month I'm going off to the Red Sea for a week to scuba dive with
Mm.
some mates. So I'm still tottering about the place.
Mm. Have you scuba dived in the Red Sea before? It's supposed to be fantastic.
I have, yeah, I've been going there since the early 90s. I learned to scuba dive in 1988, and so I've pretty much been everywhere around the world that's famous for scuba diving, apart from the Maldives and Thailand. I've never been to them.
Right. Plenty of fine scuba diving around Donegal. It might not be as warm as the Maldives or the Red Sea, but lots of great scuba diving around the coast here.
Well, I've dived off Donegal. I've dived off um, St. John's Point down
Yeah.
there, and up off Falcarra up the north, Hornhead. I remember a lovely dive up there and beautiful underwater cathedral. Fantastic.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Are you a scuba diver yourself?
No, no, do a wee bit of swimming, but not nothing much, not near as much as you, and don't do any scuba diving. Some
Right.
bad swimming, just.
Mm.
Let's talk a wee bit about the book because, well, you would have a long association with Donegal down through the years, from holidays in Bundoran to your dad was a teacher in Murlog, so
Yeah.
and then all the tours and concerts. You very rarely
Yeah.
miss Donegal.
True.
You were playing in
Well,
Dunleary earlier this year.
yeah, it's true. Donegal is one of my favorite spots in the world. Anywhere from the southwest up to the tip of Inishowen. I've been all over the county. I've loads of friends there, and I love it. So no tour is complete without a visit to Donegal.
Good, good, absolutely. And everybody I talked to, it was a weekend we were away, and everybody we talked to, we were in, I think it was in Dublin, and we seemed to be talking to people. Oh yeah, I'm going to Paul Brady tomorrow night, and then another group. Oh yeah, I'm going to see Paul Brady tomorrow night. So you had a couple of good
Yeah.
nights in Dunleary.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I'm enjoying myself so much on stage now. I mean, particularly when I play solo, and the audiences are just wonderful. And I mean, I've never been happier on stage than I am right now.
In the book, you go right back to growing up in Strabane. Your dad taught in Murlog, and your mum was a teacher as well over in Sion Mills. And
Yeah,
you're. Would it be fair to say that your parents, and in particular your dad, were big influences on you
oh yes, that would
in
be very
music?
fair to say. Yes, absolutely. And not just in music. In a sense, my father was a singer. He liked to sing, but his main talent outside his teaching job was, I'd say, as an actor. And when in his younger years, in the early 50s, when we just had moved to Strabane, he was involved in lots of reviews, and he produced plays in St. Pat's Hall, and acted out plays himself. And later on was well known for his one-man shows, like his monologues and all. He was always being asked up in Bundoran, wherever establishment he found himself in. Wasn't long before Sean Brady was asked up. And when I was a kid, like 10 years old, like at 9 or 10, 11, my parents would bring me out in the evenings with them, and I'd sit there with my Club Orange, and sooner or later my father would get up and do his bit, and it just took my breath away. Like his talent for investing his monologues with a spirit. And I mean, a lot of people would kind of would learn off monologues, like, but they drone them out, like, da da da
Yeah.
da da. But he made the whole thing come alive, and that stuck with me when I started to perform myself. I became interested in wanting to do story songs that and become the character in the song and almost act the song out as much as sing it. And yes, my father was a huge influence on me as a performer.
Did you inherit the acting genes? Because there's a picture in the book here of you looking very dapper in a film. What is it? Cremaster 3.
Cremaster 3. Oh, that was one of the weirdest movies you'll ever see.
Well, I can't claim to have seen it, Paul.
It was a sort of an art film by an artist of the time, Matthew Barney, um, and the loose story was dealt with some of the Irish workers who were involved in the building of the Chrysler building in New York back in whenever it was built in the 20s or something.
Mm.
So the outfit I'm seen in is as the maitre d' of the Cloud Club, which was the private club at the top of the Chrysler building. Yeah.
From the sort of Art
Yeah.
Deco background, I could almost guess that it was something like that. Anyhow, in the book, you go right through your career from the early days in the folk scene with the Johnsons, and this is as far back as the 60s, and back when folk music wouldn't really be in vogue. It was in the 70s, and again, you were at the forefront with Planksty and played alongside some other great musicians. And the stories are too numerous to go through, but they're all outlined and well documented here in the various chapters. But you survived it all. They were tough times in many ways.
Yeah, well, I've never, I'm a lucky boy because, at crucial times in my career, I got blessed by an accidental association with someone. But at the same time, there were lots of downsides in the career and lots of low points, and I had to struggle many, many times to feel that I would get through and things would work out. People ask me, did I never feel like giving up? I never felt like giving up, but I knew I had a fight on my hands many, many times. So yes, there were struggles, but there were lots of highs too.
Ironically, those struggles were at perhaps the most successful stage of your career, because it was in the 80s that you and through to the mid 90s that you embraced rock and maybe even a bit of pop or whatever,
Yeah.
And moved away from folk. But behind the scenes, it was a hard time. Was it to do with record labels? Was it to do with where your heart lay, or what was it?
Well, I was with major record labels for a long time in the 80s and 90s, and major record labels, they want top 10 hits. They want you on top of the pops. That's all. They want you on daytime radio, and that's all. They kept pushing me in that direction all the time, and I never felt comfortable, particularly. I never felt like a pop star. Never wanted to be a pop star, and so I felt myself, like a square peg in a round hole for a lot of the 80s and 90s. insofar as my record career was concerned. So I was very, in the mid 90s when I was kind of set free from all that was when I began to realize that, you know, I was all right the way I was,
Yeah, yeah. But it's when you sort of
I
had
was,
it's when you had artistic freedom. When you took control again that you sort of came out of that phase and were happier. But
yeah.
looking back on it, how do you feel now? All those collaborations and record companies and them telling you what to do rather than what you want to do yourself.
Well, I'm a great believer that your mistakes are as important in your life as your successes, and I've no, I don't regret much. I don't look back much, apart from when I was writing the book. But I don't look back with regret. I mean, I made some bad choices. I made some big mistakes, but you know, they threw me in a direction that I had to find a strength in, and that I lived through them and came out stronger at the other end, and that's made me the person I am now. I mean, not just personally or spiritually, but musically. I mean, I'm very content with who I am musically, and I'm quite happy to do a concert where I'll sing the Homes of Donegal after, the long goodbye. Although there's chalk and cheese in terms of the types of music they are. Um, I think that's what I always was meant to be, a person who had a broad variety of music, and the pop world couldn't deal with that.
But you took audiences with you along the way, and you won new audiences along the way. And today, I'm sure, when you're playing to an audience, it's one that's there to hear whatever you decide to play. They might.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't go on stage trying to sort of bamboozle people or challenge them utterly. I like to pepper a few new things and interesting things that interest me, new things maybe into a program. But mostly I'll do songs that people want to hear, because I like the songs too.
Mm,
I enjoy singing them,
good.
and it's wonderful that, I mean, it's a wonderful feeling to know that something that you made up out of nothing has been very important to a whole bunch of people for years. And I mean, that's a big give back.
Along the way, there's been a lot of associations and collaborations as well. And you've written songs for other artists. And I'm thinking about as in here in the book about the time you met Bob Dylan and working with Tina Turner and
Mm,
touring with Dire Straits and all great memories and all sort of uh,
mm.
stop gaps along the way.
Yeah, yeah, they're great. I mean, I was very fortunate. I mean, there's no way I could have ever, when I was listening to John Mayall and the Blues Breakers featuring Eric Clapton on my little dance set record player back in 1962 or 63, would I have ever thought that Eric Clapton would ask me to tour with him, or end up singing a song of mine on a record? Uh, Equally, I mean, I could never have dreamt that one day I'd be sitting moving Bob Dylan's fingers around the fretboard of a guitar saying, "No, Bob, not like that. It's like this." You know. So I mean, all these magical things happened. And I mean, it's not they're not what I think about when I wake up every morning, but at the same time, they happened, and I was a lucky boy. I still am lucky.
Most people would know some, maybe many of your songs. Um, a lot of song you often described as a songwriter's songwriter, but a lot of people, a lot of songwriters would look up to you and hold you obviously in very high regard. And in the book, it's all covered, songwriting and performing and the people that you've met along the way. But what if you were to pick out If you were to pick out a couple of years or a phase of your career, I suppose, where not that you were happiest, but just where there's, particularly fond memories, whether that's people or whether that's tours, or
Mm.
what would they be?
Well, I always enjoyed my work with Bonnie Raitt. I mean, I was a fan of Bonnie Raitt's from early 1970s when the Johnsons moved to America first on our big Let's Break America fantasy. Uh, I was a fan of Bonnie Raitt's, and I remember buying her album, her vinyl album, "Give It Up," in a shop down in the village in New York. I was a huge fan of Bonnie Raitt's, and I listened to her all throughout the 70s. Her star went up and the star went down, and then I met her actually out in LA when I was out making the Trick or Treat album back in 1989 it was, and was blown away to discover that she'd been listening to my records for years too. So we ended up doing a duet on the title song of the Trick or Treat album, and then she asked me did I have any songs, and at the time she was planning to record a song of mine called "Not the Only One" that I had on a record back. Must have been 7 or 8 years before that, back in 1983 it was. She recorded that and had a big hit with it in America, went to #2 in the top 100. And, so I got on well with her. I sang on her records and she recorded some more of my songs and we actually co-wrote songs. And so that's definitely, and I love her singing still. So that's definitely a high point for me in the career. Yeah.
Whatever about writing songs, what about writing the book? Has that been it's not an easy process writing a song, I'm sure, but writing the book,
No.
Has that been trickier?
Well, it's been trickier. Yeah. I mean, I'll go through it, and I'll go, "Gee, why did I say that? Or sometimes I'll go through it and go, "Ginny, why didn't I say this?" So it's a book. Writing a book is a biography is, at the best you're only sort of writing about maybe 5% of your life, the bit that you can remember. So it's trying to decide what to leave in and what to leave out is a hard thing. And I mean, the book, as far as I know now, after we edited it, is about 95,000 words. I think originally it was about 120,000 words. So there's a fair few bits and pieces lying on the cutting room floor.
Volume 2.
Yeah. Volume 2. No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I have to tell you a story about a young DJ many years ago in Donegal town who was starting out in the business, and his first interview was with Paul Brady over in the Abbey Hotel, and he made an absolute hames of it. I think told you were a songwriter rather than a performer, and messed up the intro, but you couldn't have been nicer. You won't remember it, but
was that you?
That was me. Very, very first interview. I think it was about 1990, and I got a few minutes with you over in the Abbey Hotel ahead of a concert. And
I block out the painful ones.
Yeah, well, that's why it's disappeared from your memory. Anyhow, listen, the book is out now. Paul Brady, Crazy Dreams, and it's a great read. Paul, thanks a million for joining us.
Thank you, John. Thank you. It was good pleasure talking to you.
And we'll chat to you down the road again.
It's the Right Price Tiles on wood flooring half price sale. Get up to 50% off everything in store.